Hello, everyone. So, figured I'd upload something today because it's been radio silence for me for a little while. So, I'm just making a little mountain range here using some of my Houdini tools for terrain creation, which I must say are getting to a point where they're relatively sweet. Um, Although you guys can judge that for yourself. So, just make a little mountain range here. So, I'm starting out with just some like a distorted primitive and then some terracing to add a slight bit more detail, and then fluvial erosion to carve in those channels. The fluvial erosion, by the way, is using a lot of something called like geological age enhancement, which is a fancy way of saying it does a lot of it computes the erosion at multiple different resolutions. So it does a lot of computation at a very low resolution to get really big shapes, and then it sort of uh, trickles down to the higher resolutions where the final resolutions aren't actually much erosion at all, just enough to add a slight little detail pass. Anyways, so after that, so that'll give you a lot of big rocky shapes. But after that, I added in some thermal erosion just to add in a bit of like talus stuff and to smooth out the sedimentation a bit. And after that, a small bit more fluvial erosion, this time just for creating channels. There's no like aggressive sampling of anything. It's just for little sediment channels to smooth out the bottoms of those aforementioned talus cones. So yeah, now I'm starting on the texturing. So the texturing is very simple. I'm just mapping a quixel texture onto the mesh, and then I'm doing something similar to color erosion called fluvial advection. It's I believe the same process that Gaia uses for their color erosion, but mine's a little bit different under the hood and has different parameters to tweak, but similar principle. I actually don't know how Gaia's works on the hood, so I shouldn't say it's different, but I'd assume it is just from the parameters I have access to versus the ones in their color erosion. So now I wanted some highlights on the terrain as opposed to just rock. So adding in a bit of snow. So why did I create this terrain pipeline as opposed to just using Gaia? Well, basically the Gaia is great, but my workflow doesn't mesh super well with it. I wanted something where I had full control over everything. Um, And honestly, the real reason, dude, this guy isn't on Linux, and I'm way too lazy to switch to Windows every time I want to make a terrain. It's a hassle. So Houdini isn't necessarily as efficient at some things regarding processing height fields, like exporting it takes forever. Um, and obviously, it's a full CG suite, so there's a lot more overhead. But you can do a surprising amount of things, and so all of this stuff is being done on the GPU, or at least most of it. All the intensive stuff is being done on the GPU, so it's pretty fast. So it's not like I'm really compromising any performance. In fact, I'd say it's on average faster than Gaia. So there's really not a whole lot of compromises. Another thing is it's just very fun to develop things. It's completely empowering. Like stuff that feels magical when you don't know what's going on can turn out to be rather simple or something, and or maybe it is really hard, but then you get to figure it out. It feels great. So the snow actually took me a decent bit to get correct. I wanted it to like sort of clump up together, I made it do that, but then it kind of looked strange, so I decided to turn that off. Yeah. Another reason with why I decided to do it on my own is because I think I can honestly make tools that are can do unique things as opposed to the current options out there. I'm not going to say they're any better or worse than them because that's a very qualitative thing, but I can definitely do a lot of things that they can't with mine. Like for instance, I'll publish something soon with Mars terrains and such, and for me, it's something that's like rather easy to do with like 3 or 4 nodes. Um, Not particularly trivial to do in Gaia or really any other terrain package. That's not a knock on them. It's just different things. Different things are good at different things, or different tools are good at different things. And obviously, I'm gonna like my own tools best because I made them, and they're good for me. So really, I can't. I'm not gonna try to make any qualitative observations on this. So I'm just wrapping up the terrain. I built it at 16K resolution. It took about 3 minutes to build, and actually more time, like 5 minutes to export. Um, it's pretty nuts. Houdini's cop networks and such for compositing are pretty slow. So now I just took it into Blender, loaded the height map in. It's a very basic scene, so I didn't just recreate it for the video. Just displaced plane and then HDRI. Really goes to show how far how important having good assets is. They can really take a lot of the headroom out of the, or they can really streamline your process. Like it looks pretty good. All I had to do was just integrate it into the environment. So I'm going to do a couple things here that are pretty notable. So one is making a gobo for these clouds. That's what I'm doing now. God, it's been a long time since I uploaded anything like substantive to this channel. I did a little thing on clouds like a month ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, I guess. Really goes to show how long it's been. I started using Houdini a little over a year ago. I think it was July of last year. I haven't uploaded a single Houdini video on this channel outside of that one thing showing off the thermal erosion, which I made. But it was still pretty sick. It's probably the favorite thing I've done in Houdini because it's just so interesting. You can get so many different things out of it. Still haven't uncovered everything, I don't think. Anyways, so the second thing I'm doing here is I'm doing this thing that most people probably think is completely fucking strange. Subtracting a color from the HDRI. The reason I'm doing this, though, is actually pretty interesting. So HDRIs bake in a lot of their lighting. Not lighting, what am I saying? They bake in some atmosphere because it's obviously captured from a single point on the ground. So they bake in the atmosphere. But if we have an atmosphere in the scene, we don't want to sort of double it up in this case. Well, especially in this case, because the tips of the mountains should be ideally very close to the clouds, the bottoms of the clouds. So we don't want a whole bunch of extra atmosphere getting in the way of there. So that's why I took that out. You can see they fit in a fair bit better. So now I'm just sort of playing around with the location of the Easter egg so that the perspective matches up decently. And we're actually almost done at this point. Just sort of minor compositional things. It looks decent. Like if this was a background terrain, whatever, you wouldn't probably question it. Um, Actually, I mean, who am I to speak on that? You might have your own answer to that. Uh, More love could have been given to some parts of it, especially the foreground. But honestly, for a quick like 1 hour sketch, not bad, not bad. It's like 2 a.m. You can see I'm recording this at 2 a.m. It's 12:30 a.m. on my screen right there. So I'm pretty tired, but I want to get this done tonight, and I don't want to record another one. So yeah, this is the final. Is this the final? No, I'm gonna slightly change the. Yeah, so yeah. This is the final render. Eh? I'll try to be more active here. I think I have some stuff that could be useful to folks. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. It was a pleasure. Bye.